Good morning. My name is Fred Greenwald, and I am one of the maintenance people that maintain the 6 club locomotives for MLS. This morning we are going to cover two topics. We're going to cover safety of the entire locomotive, and then we are going to cover usage and how each of the controls is different than the other one. Let me start out by explaining that the one thing we need to worry about the most is let's make sure we take a look at the locomotives and the trucks to make sure that there's springs and there's none missing. We also want to check the engine oil, which is right here on this particular locomotive, and basically looking for loose things. If you find something loose and you need to let us know, then it's just a matter of advising us. If you think there's something on this locomotive that is a problem, we have a red tag here that you can fill out, put your name on it, tell us what you think the problem or you've found, and we'll go from there. We also would like you to email us. If you have email, please send us an email as well, and send it to mlsmaint@yahoo.com. The other things we need to check on it besides this, we need to go here and we need to check the couplers. That would be up here, both front and rear on the riding car and on the locomotive. We also want to cover the riding car trucks, the springs on those, and the rear coupler as well, to make sure it's in good shape. Once you've done all that, you've checked the engine oil, and at least you've satisfied yourself there's no loose parts on this locomotive, then we go to the next step, and that would be operation. All these locomotives are basically the same. They all need to have the same things inspected. Springs on the trucks, missing springs, loose drawbars, loose couplers, any parts that you think could cause a safety hazard. I would rather you write it up and let us know so that we can take a look at it. It may not be a problem, but if it is, we'll be glad to look at it and fix it. Please make sure to check the level of your fuel in your locomotive. If it's for a public run, we have fuel over by the station. If you're running it for your own purposes, please bring your own fuel and make sure you've got fuel. You don't want to run out of fuel out somewhere out a mile or two away and have to walk back. It's a long walk. Thank you. Okay, we're going to show the operational procedures for starting locomotive 7282. It's necessary to fill out the logbook, put the starting hours in, put the date, and put your name on it, so we have an indication how many hours it was used. We also have an hour meter over here, and it's where you get your information to do it. As far as the controls on 7282, the one right here is the throttle. This is idle, and this is full throttle. The one over here is you operate your forward and reverse, and there's a detent in the middle. Make certain it's in this position before you attempt to start it. You have an off-on switch for the ignition and a start switch. And over here we have a choke. Right here, it's on this side in the front. You pull the lever back, puts the choke on, push the lever forward, it goes off. As far as starting goes, you probably want to keep it in an idle or just a slight amount above. Before you push the start switch, you must turn the ignition on before you hit the start switch. If you have any problem with it, it doesn't start well, please write it up. Let us know about it. If it's become very hard to start, we need to know about that. This is locomotive 4403. The starting procedure on this locomotive is a little different than the other, than 7282. There's a choke up here on the right side in the window. You pull the lever out to choke it, and it's over on the right front corner. As far as starting, you make sure your detent is in neutral, so it won't start unless it is. And then you have an ignition key. You turn it on and turn it to start. This is the throttle. As far as locking on 4403, we have 2 new throttles on 4402 and 3. It requires you turn it just a quarter of a turn until it binds, and it will lock the throttle in position. In order to release it, you go counterclockwise, and you can bring it down to an idle. It will hold any position you set it at, but just a quarter turn to lock the throttle. This is locomotive number 4402, very much similar to locomotive 4403. The hour meter is here. Make sure, again, you write down the hours in the logbook. Make sure you've got your lever in neutral, and you give it a little bit of throttle. And over here we have a choke. Make sure you pull your choke out. And then you have a key off, on. Make sure you turn your choke off as soon as you can, or otherwise the locomotive will die or flood. It will not continue to run. This is very similar to 4403, and you should have no problem. This is locomotive UP 2001. It has a little different procedure. The engine is located in the rear of this locomotive. The oil check is over here on this side right here, and the choke is on this side over here. The oil check on the right, on the left is the choke. Again, make sure that you have it in a neutral position before you attempt to turn the key and start it. Also, make sure that you fill out the logbook, again, putting your name in it, and the date and the amount of hours. Right here is the hour meter, located right up here. And then you can go ahead. The horn is located up here. The throttle is located right here. We also have on this locomotive and two others, we also have a battery cutoff switch. This switch, when turned off, nothing functions. You must turn it to 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock horizontal in order to have any power to the locomotive at all. Again, this is a battery cutoff. When you're done using it, turn it down to 6 o'clock. And when you want to use it, go to 9 o'clock. This is locomotive 6005. The oil check on this thing is not, you cannot do it without removing the hood, so leave, in this particular locomotive, leave the oil check to the maintenance crew. Over here we have a choke. There's a choke underneath here. Push up for choke and pull down to remove the choke. Over here we have a gas fill up, and we have a hydraulic cutoff valve. This valve has to be rotated one direction or the other to cut off the oil or cut off the hydraulic oil. You cannot move it unless you turn this to the off position. We also have a battery cutoff right here on this one. It's located right here. You must turn this on before you attempt to start it, or you will not be able to. This is different than the other cutoffs. It's located up here. Starting this locomotive requires just an on-off switch. There is no key. There's a start button. This is your throttle. And this is basically the only have. You have a light switch down here, and you have headlights, and you have a bell switch as well. This is locomotive BNSF 2001. The starting procedures and the items that you need to check. Over here on the left side of the locomotive in front is a dipstick to check the oil level. Over on this side over here is a battery cutoff switch right here. You turn this upward at 9 o'clock to turn it on. You turn it back down to 6 to shut it off. You need to operate, you need to go back in the back here. We have the control, that's forward, that's reverse. The throttle is here. This is a parking brake. If you go to the right, it applies the parking brake. If you push it left and hear a noise like air escaping, it's because you're letting the brake off. The horn button is right here. You have a cooling fan here that you should turn on after you've started the locomotive to keep the inside cool. The second switch is for your lights, your ditch lights and your headlights. And the third switch is not being used. You also have a choke. This is on, this is off. And here's your ignition switch. In order to start that, you go to on, and you turn the switch to the far right to start, and you should be able to start it. Give it a little bit of throttle before you attempt to start it. This locomotive, BNSF 2001, is only supposed to be used for public runs on Sunday and for other special events as determined by a vote of the general membership of the club. Thank you for watching this video, and safe railroading.